get started.
Okay, real good. Well, Craig, do you want to run it?
Yeah. I'm going to say today we have two groups here. We have the Food to Health group, which is part of the PlantPure group, and also we've connected with the PBNM group. And the second group then is the PBNM group. So we have both attending today. Exciting part about our meeting is we do have our guest speaker, which is Nelson Campbell. It's in the center of my screen here, but I don't know what it is for the rest of the people. If it's sorted out differently. And he is the founder of the PlantPure group. He also was the director and I don't know what else titles you had of running the movie, the PlantPure Nation movie. And he's been working for many years on getting the health information out to different groups and people, trying to promote the whole food, plant-based eating lifestyle. So today he's going to be speaking to us about the Open Tribe, the new website that is out there. So you'll be talking about that and maybe ways through that we can, each of our groups work together or independently on getting information about whole food plant-based to more people and for better health. So, and I think he has some other things that he'll be talking about that PlantPure has to offer, maybe some new things that are up and coming with that. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Nelson Campbell. Yay.
All right. Thank you, Craig. It's great to be here. It's been a long pandemic, but I think we're finally all getting used to these Zoom calls. So I feel like I'm sitting here with you. Yeah. So what I'd like to do, and I've offered to do this with all the pods that we have in our PlantPure Communities pod network, I'd like to talk to you about this new platform that we've created at opentribe.com and how we're hoping local groups like your groups can get on there, will get on there and engage and begin doing things in your local community. I think fortunately although we're having a tough time now, I think there is some light at the end of this tunnel with this pandemic. And I think in the spring and summer, we're going to see people starting to get back together again. So, it's a good time now to be thinking about this and planning. And what I'd like to do before I get to the platform itself is to paint a larger picture for what it is that we're trying to do. We're trying to launch a comprehensive strategy to help contribute to a grassroots movement to share the health and the environmental and the ethical benefits of a plant-based diet. And this platform is a key part of that. But I'd like to paint the big picture, and then I'll give you a quick tour of the website, and then we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. But as I'm talking, if you have any questions, just interrupt me. So just to give you a little background, everything that we're doing is the result of kind of a vision that I developed some years ago for a strategy to help get this message deeper into the mainstream. And I thought very carefully about, what are the elements that would be necessary for a strategy to empower people in local communities to share this message. And I identified a number of elements, and it includes food, education, wellness programming for physicians and employers to help share this as well, the organization of people locally, and then a platform to connect everyone together and to make available to people strategies and resources for taking action. And then the final element that I considered is creating an economic engine that could help support all of this. I had thought about doing all of these things as a nonprofit organization, But I realized that it could be even more successful if we could create an economic engine that could generate revenues and resources to help support this. So I'll explain that as well. So I started out on this journey of building this kind of grassroots strategy over 10 years ago and focused first on food. Particularly at that time, there weren't as many food options. And also, I had envisioned a 10-day immersion program that would require an extensive meal plan. And there was nothing like that on the market. So started working on creating food products and was having a lot of challenges. The foods business is exceedingly difficult. It's capital intensive and very complicated. And I was quite frankly at a place where I thought maybe I was going to give up. And then an opportunity came along to make a film. And the opportunity was created through some interactions that I had in Kentucky with a politician there, a state legislator. And if you all have seen PlantPure Nation, you kind of know the backstory. And I'm not going to say a lot because if you haven't seen it, I encourage you to go to Amazon Prime or YouTube to watch the film. But it's essentially, it's a story-driven documentary that helps to answer for people how this message was suppressed for so long. Because the evidence for a plant-based diet actually goes back a long ways, but it started to become quite convincing all the way back in the 1970s and 1980s. And of course, my father, Dr. T. Colin Campbell, was a person doing much of that research. So it's been, this message has been hidden for a long time. And the film PlantPure Nation is really focused on the reasons for that. So this opportunity developed, and after a failure, the political failure that we had in Kentucky, I imagined a storyline for the film and went out and talked to some folks with money and raised money to begin producing the film. The film came out in theaters in 2015 in over 100 communities across the country and was quite successful, and then went on Netflix for a couple of years. At the end of the film, and again, if you've seen the film, you know this, we had a call to action for people to form local support and advocacy groups called pods. And people answered that call to action. We have today hundreds of pods, over 250,000 people who are involved in these pods. And we have pods all over the world, although most of them are in the US. So it quickly became very successful. And that really represents the organizational component element that I mentioned initially as being important to this grassroots strategy. To help support that pod network, I started a nonprofit called PlantPure Communities. So that's the primary role of PlantPure Communities, is to support our pod network. Also, after the release of the film, I kind of got back to working on the other elements, including the food element, and did that through a company called PlantPure. So we launched the PlantPure business in 2016. And much of what we're going to be utilizing in this strategy actually flows through PlantPure. And I won't go into excessive detail about this, but we'll just identify a few of the key elements. We have been very successful in developing an extensive food product line. So we have frozen entrees that we launched online, but they're now getting into supermarkets. And we also have a very exciting new meal starter product line, which is basically a line of meal packs, meal starter packs that contain the dried ingredients of a recipe. And all you have to do is add a wet ingredient and fresh or frozen produce to quickly prepare a meal. We just launched these products, and I'm going to circle back to them in a minute because they're a key part of the strategy and also our philanthropic commitment that we're making through PlantPure. And then we've developed educational programming. So for example, we have a 10-day Jumpstart program that's accessible online, and it includes education and also access to the food so people can live plant-based for 10 days. And we have the Jumpstart program in both English and in Spanish, or we'll soon have it available in Spanish. So I'm quite excited about that. And then we've also created wellness programming. That's another element that I mentioned at the outset for physicians and employers. And so it's basically, it's the food and the Jumpstart and a few other things that we can make available as part of a PlantPure RX program. So if a physician wants to introduce a patient to the plant-based diet, they can prescribe the 10-day immersion or 10-day Jumpstart. And then we have a program that we can provide to work sites for employers who want to introduce this to their employees. So that's another key element. And finally, we have created a new social action platform at opentribe.com. I had mentioned at the outset that a key part of the strategy for launching a grassroots movement is to not just organize people, but connect groups in disparate locations and to make available to people projects, strategies, and resources that enable them to take action in their local communities. And that's what Open Tribe is. And I'll give you a tour of that in a minute. Before I get to that, though, I want to get to the final element of this strategy. And it's kind of interesting, the strategy I'm sharing with you here, which is really all culminating in a national campaign that we're going to be launching this year. That strategy, goes back, as I said, to over 10 years ago, and it has remained unchanged. Everything that we've done was part of the original vision. It's just taken us a long time to get here because there's a lot that we had to do. So this last element is, as I mentioned at the outset, is the notion of an economic engine to help support all of this. So what we're going to do is we're using the foods business of PlantPure. We're going to use the foods business of PlantPure to support this strategy in a philanthropic manner. And we're making two key philanthropic commitments. The first, I mentioned to you those meal starters. We're going to be making these products available to people who are experiencing food insecurity and or who lack access to healthy foods. Many of these people living in lower income communities. We're going to be looking for ways, strategies that we can use to make these products available to those folks at cost, waiving 100% of our profit margin. So the idea is to take the food right from the factory and right into people's hands with no markup. So this becomes the least expensive way for people to eat. So that's a big one, and that's taken a lot of effort. This product line took over 2 years of work, and we're very excited about it. And we have the ability to scale this line and to do a lot of volume. So I'm very excited about that commitment and that possibility. The other thing we're going to do is, and we're not profitable yet, we should be in 2021, but we're going to take 1/2 of our future profits and share those profits philanthropically with nonprofit organizations who are engaged in our movement, most likely organizations who are on Open Tribe doing things. So for every dollar that we have to reinvest to sustain PlantPure, we want to give $1 away. So that's kind of the last piece of the strategy. And it's all coming together now really within the Open Tribe platform. The Open Tribe is the kind of the integrating feature. It's the integrating element for all of this. Everything I've explained to you is embedded within Open Tribe. So what I can do real quick is just give you a 30,000-foot overview of Open Tribe. And maybe I'll share my screen here and just kind of quickly walk you through it. And if you have detailed questions about it, particularly about any of the technology related to this, I can connect you with my son, Colin, who's a very smart programmer who helped to build this site. This site is completely original. It's all of our own programming. I think we've got probably close to 100,000 lines of code now in this website, but he's the one who can answer detailed questions. So let me give you a quick tour, and then I'm going to finish up by explaining to you how we're launching all of this through a national campaign here in 2021. So let me go to, let me see if I can do this. I'm not as good with technology as my son. Okay, it says the host has disabled participant screen sharing.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, I find your name on the participants list, but I'm not seeing where we can, let's see.
I just put multiple participants can share at the same time.
Okay.
All participants.
Let's see. Pause recording, stop recording, screen share, advanced sharing options. It doesn't look like, it says who can share, and it looks like all participants is selected.
Oh, you know what? Now it's letting me share.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah, I just went back to it to try it again,
Okay, good.
and something happened.
Yeah, Craig changed the setting.
Okay. Let me see here.
There we go.
All right, can you see my, can you see Open Tribe?
Yep.
Okay. So again, I'm just going to just kind of walk through this quickly just to point out the key elements. So if you're a group, you can set up a series of, you can set up your own presence here on the platform. And we already have quite a few groups who've signed up. I should point out that this has been launched in a soft launch. We really haven't started heavily promoting this yet. You know, we want to make sure that we've gotten all the bugs out of it and stuff, but we've already had a really good response. And here's, I think, your group or one of your two groups.
Yeah, that's ours. That's PBNM.
Yeah.
And that's, yep, there you go.
Yep. And so through here, you can talk a little bit about your group and introduce it to folks. You can set up events, you can have discussions, you can connect with members. You also have a place here where you can store group resources. And in particular, these might be resources that are related to projects that you are engaged in. Mm-hmm. So let me go to the project page, because this is really all about getting groups engaged in projects. Mm-hmm. So we have now these 7 projects that we've put on the site, and I should emphasize that we hope and expect someday that there might be thousands of projects on here, and maybe hundreds of different campaigns. So right now, these projects are all kind of part of a campaign to promote the message of plant-based nutrition. But you know, perhaps at some point there might be a campaign focusing on, say, homelessness, and then a whole series of projects that get put on the site relating to that people can tap into. And we do expect much of that future growth to come from our community. So we've provided ways here for people to reach out if they have ideas for projects or strategies or resources to let us know. Mm-hmm. And if I go into a project here, each project has a little video that's a little teaser for the project. And then it has a strategy. So we're looking at the strategy feed here, and it's just a stepwise strategy for how you can engage in this project within your own local community. And then you have resources that you can tap into that help to support that strategy. And again, you know, we've just loaded in here enough resources to kind of get the ball rolling. We also, although we don't have much in here at the moment, we will have more of this in the future. We're going to be working on educational programming that relate to the project. So, you know, it might be some online course somewhere that is related to the expertise required for that project. We want to create as much of that programming as possible. We, you know, maybe license or function as affiliate for other people's programming so that we can combine education with action. You know, there are a lot of places we can go to get educated, but this is a website where you can go and you can learn, and then you can put that learning into action. Also, people can get on here and have discussion about the project. So if you have an idea for the project or your group's involved in the project and you've done something amazing, you can go in here and share that. And then each of the projects can have one or more leaders, you know, national leaders with expertise in that project. So the whole idea here is providing ideas and resources to people for taking action. And we've had a lot of people in our pod network over the past few years who've said, you know, we love the social aspects of a pod, but boy, we'd like to get more involved in our local community. We want to do things to help transform our local community. And so that's really what this is intended to do. If I go back to the home page, I can point out another key element. So I've really covered three so far. One of the group functionality projects, the education, and then this media element. And this is really important. We started playing around and producing a little show we're calling Open Tribe News. We did have to pause that the last couple of months because we had a lot of work to do to launch these meal starters, but we're going to get back to this. We also have a cooking show. Some of you may know about that my wife is involved in, Kim Campbell, who's a nationally regarded cookbook author, called PlantPure Kitchen Live, teaching people how to cook. This show here, Open Tribe News, I'm kind of excited about. What we're going to do in 2021 is we're going to stay connected with the pods and other groups who are working on the platform and watching and looking for inspiring stories that we can tell through our show. What we want to do is we want to identify best practices. We want to identify those efforts that people are making that could inspire other people, and then use our media to shine a light on that. When you think about the platform here, there are feedback loops. You can come up with a project idea and you can share it. You can comment on existing projects and suggest strategies, improved strategies and resources. You may have an educational program that you'd like to make available to the community. And also, you may be doing things that could inspire others that we can capture through our media. And so really, ultimately, the goal of this platform is, as I oftentimes say, is to create a collective entrepreneurial mind that no government anywhere could ever match. And I think this is what we need to do to begin healing our world, to make the changes that are necessary to heal our world, is we have to engage people everywhere in solutions. We can't just sit back and watch this world spin out of control on our TV and computer screens. We've got to figure out how we can all be part of a positive solution. And it doesn't matter if we're a Democrat or Republican or independent or socialist or something else. You know, we need to set all that aside, and we need to connect with one another to begin healing from the bottom up. And so that's really what this platform is all about. So I'll stop sharing there and then just make a couple more quick comments and I will be done. So let me speak for a minute about how it is that we're going to launch this. And I think I stopped sharing. Did I stop sharing?
Yeah.
You see me again?
Yes,
Okay.
we do.
Yeah. Okay. So I spoke about this some time ago, and it just took us a little longer to get some of these elements developed than I thought it did. So maybe I started talking about this too soon. And then the pandemic got in the way as well. But some of you may have heard me talk in the past about this idea of launching a Healing America campaign.
Mhm.
Well, we're coming back to this idea, but now we have all of the elements in place to do this. So, so really, what I'm talking about here in this Healing America campaign is now fully implementing the vision that I had over 10 years ago for a kind of a grassroots movement to help share the message of plant-based nutrition. We're going to kick this off probably in March. We're kind of thinking through these details now, but we're considering holding an online summit that would include some well-known speakers, and it would probably take place over a weekend or maybe just a Saturday. And the focus of the summit will be on, explaining the power of plant-based nutrition, but then focusing in on the struggles that are occurring in our forgotten communities. Our healthcare crisis is most severe in many of these communities. The health statistics are terrible. The COVID death rate has been significantly higher. And I just have a fundamental belief that if we're going to heal our world, and we have to start someplace, that we should start where the pain is greatest. I just feel that way. And we've turned a blind eye to these communities for far too long, and it needs to stop. And so the summit will make the case for addressing our healthcare crisis broadly, but initially focusing on these communities. And there's going to be a call to action at the end for people to join or start pods, or you don't even have to be a pod. You don't have to be in the pod network. Any group. Although it's not hard to register in the pod network, but to start or join a group, get set up on OpenTribe, and then begin engaging. And the first project that we want people to engage in is the Community Advocacy Project, which lays a foundation for a local health campaign that begins initially in some of these struggling communities. And we're still considering the name for that project, but if you go on OpenTribe now, you'll see a project called Neighbors in Need. But the idea is to engage in the community advocacy project and then kind of pivot and begin implementing that second project. So if you go into the website, you can look at that project, community advocacy, take a look at the strategy, and also look at the local resolution that's in the resource file. That strategy really is inspired by what we did in Kentucky and demonstrated in our film in PlantPure Nation, but localizing it. So our call to action will encourage people to engage that way. But in addition, we're going to put out there kind of an exciting opportunity for people to sink their teeth into right away. What I'm considering, and again, this has not been finalized yet, but is launching a national contest within our pod network, and recruiting pods and other groups to develop strategies for how we can get the plant-based message and these deeply discounted meal starters which we won't make a penny of profit on because we're going to waive our profit margin. For getting these meal starters and the message into these lower income communities where the need is greater. And, you know, that's easier said than done. That's not necessarily so straightforward because, you know, we can't just sort of give these products at those prices to everyone because then we won't have an organization called PlantPure and we won't be able to do anything. So we want to reserve that for those who are truly in need. But how do we do that? You know, how do we make sure that we're connecting with the right people, and how are we getting that education into those communities? So there's a lot of work there. So what I want to do is I want to engage all of our network to sort of in a contest to come up with ideas for how we do this, and then to submit those to us. And then what we'll do is we'll select maybe something like 3 or 4, you know, some smaller number. We'll select to use in pilot projects where we work with those groups in those communities to do a little pilot project of their idea. And we'll provide our food at cost to support that. And our nonprofit PlantPure Communities also will be helping to manage this process because this is really a charitable project that we're talking about here. And then based on that pilot work, you know, those initial projects, we'll see if we can identify from that a strategy that we can then scale across the country and really get behind, and everyone gets behind it. And we can take and put that strategy as a project on Open Tribe so it's accessible to everyone. And then, you know, continue as well to kick off, you know, the broader Healing America campaign strategy, which is really focused broadly on sharing this message with everyone, you know, not just in struggling communities, but everyone. But I think if we can demonstrate compassion, you know, and create a positive example that people can get behind and believe in, I think we're going to be able to inspire a lot of people to join our Healing America campaign. Mm-hmm. So anyways, that's it. The only other thing I'll say is after the pandemic is over, I'm planning to do a lot of traveling, and I would like to go around and go to different communities and help kick off these local campaigns. So maybe I'll get a chance to come through your neck of the woods and can work with you on that.
Yeah, Chicago will have its welcome mat out for you.
Yeah, but anyway, so that's my story, and I'll stop there. I've been talking too long, and we can take the rest of the time just to have discussion.
Well, I thought I would throw in here because you were talking about the starters, and I decided that I would place an order for the full selection. I can't remember how many items are in that full package, 20 or something like that. Most of them are meals. And then I think 2 of them are sauces or like dressings or whatever. And I'm happy to report that I've had about a half a dozen of them so far for my meals. And they do serve maybe 4 servings or 6 servings per packet. So it's like when you get a packet, it's not for just one person, one meal. You get plenty of food out of it. And they've been very, very good. I've been really pleased with how they turned out. So I highly recommend everybody, you know, just to go out onto PlantPure. Is it in PlantPure Nation that they could place the order, or where?
Yes, in fact, we did a New Year's sale where we discounted the meal starters by 20%, which expires midnight tonight. So if you're interested, now's a good time. But what I will say about this, I've neglected to say this, these are the least expensive plant-based products on the market today, as far as I know. Very reasonable, even including the cost of the add-ins. The average cost, it varies from, you know, meal to meal, but just an average, the average per serving cost is well under $3. And when we waive our profit margin, and we're making these products available to folks on that basis, then the cost will go way down. You know, my goal is to be able to enable people who, as I said, are experiencing food insecurity or lack access to healthy foods, to be able to prepare a serving of this food for under $1.50. So that way, you know, even people who are relying on SNAP benefits will be able to live plant-based. But we need support. We do need support for sure. You know, we're still struggling ourselves to get the break even. So I would say if any of you are interested, go to plantpurenation.com. I don't mean to sound like a commercial, but
Well, that's why I wanted to
Yeah.
bring it up, because I wanted to let people know that these are good products. They taste great. They are easy to prepare. Everybody that knows me knows I'm a non-cook. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. And the food is terrific and very, very affordable and a great way to support a real worthy cause.
The only one question I had was one of the meals in the whole food plant-based where say no oil, no oil, no oil. And one of the products does have oil, but I think it's the last ingredient, so it'd be very small.
yeah. So what we did there, Craig, is we put together a FAQ page. So if anyone has questions about any of the ingredients, you can go there. It's actually very, very wholesome ingredients. We did have a couple products where in the production process, they had to use a trace amount of oil, and it wasn't as an ingredient. It was, you know, really to facilitate a particular part of the production process. So it was there for, but it's there in a trace amount. It's in such a small amount that your body won't even know what's there. You know, it's just, but you still have to put that on the label, even though it's in a trace amount. So.
Right. Any other questions by other people there? You can take your mutes off if you'd like to ask a question.
So I have a question. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
So where are these made actually? The food
Where is the food
being made? Yes.
Oh, where is it being made?
Yes.
Yes. So we have a co-packer partner actually in your area, in the Chicago area. So we have a partner that we've been working with for a couple of years. Well, maybe not quite that long, but yeah.
Sure. So I come from India. The thing is, I always wonder what's wrong somewhere here that people are not so healthy or not so well. And then I had been to the UK about 10 years ago, and that's the first time I heard that people have allergies. Like never in my life I realized, oh, what's an allergy?
Yeah.
I was wondering whether it's all to do with the food or the spices or the mix of food or the style of preparation. And I always feel for the people who are not so well, even like Alzheimer's or all of those diseases are not so prevalent in India.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if any research is done, but my wife is a cook. She cooks meals in the morning or the afternoon and again in the evening. So we all prepare fresh meals.
Yeah.
She might be really happy to participate, give some ideas for making meals. And that also, like, she would like to participate voluntarily. I can ask her, but that's something that we would be happy to participate. If that helps to heal people, we will be really happy.
Yeah. Where are you located?
We are in Naperville.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Yeah, so to your first of all, thank you for that kind offer. And, you know, it's because of people like you and all of you that we've been working so hard on our end to do what we do, because I've just seen so many people like you who have a passion to want to help and to help heal other people. And somehow we need to enable people like you to do that in your communities. But anyways, I've heard my father talk about this issue. I've participated in a lot of presentations with my father, and I've been in the Q&As. I could probably answer for him most most of the time now, because I've heard his answers so many times. But he says that there's good research to suggest, and I don't know where that is, but when we eat a healthy diet, a whole food plant-based diet, that many of the allergies that we have tend to fade. They tend to diminish because our bodies are stronger and they're better able to deal with those things. I know in my own case, when I was a kid, before I went plant-based and into my teens, I had hay fever that was debilitating in the spring and in the summer or the early fall with the ragweed. And I almost couldn't function. I couldn't sleep at night. It was horrible. But then, when I got older and I went whole food plant-based, I have no allergies, zero. They're completely gone. Now that may not be true for everything, but it's true for a lot of things. Also, I've heard my dad mention this as well, that there's now some good research out that the more that we're exposed to bacteria and not such a hygienic environment, the fewer allergies we'll have later in life. So there's actually a downside to raising kids indoors
Mm-hmm.
in an overly clean environment. You're better off to be outdoors
Mm-hmm.
and to be exposed to a lot of different things when you're young. So that's kind of, it's another back to nature argument.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes, go ahead, Peter.
Hi, nice to meet you, Nelson. Thanks for coming to our group and sharing your message to be part of your effort. Is there any one thing that we can do now to be most effective, given what you've seen being done across the country, to get the message out to our local communities during the time of COVID here, since we can't do programming in person?
Yeah. So, what I'm suggesting to groups like yours to do is to study the platform, that I just shared, and particularly, the community advocacy project. And by the way, we're still making changes to all of this. And certainly, if you have ideas for how to improve any of the strategies or resources or things to add, you can let us know. But go ahead and start talking as a group about how you might launch one of those strategies. And again, I suggest you look at the community advocacy strategy first. There's a lot that we can do in the next few months as we're coming out of this pandemic to get ready. I've actually had a very interesting experience in my hometown that I'll just share with you briefly. And it's inspired me to know what they've been able to accomplish through Zoom. I live out in the country between the towns of Hillsborough and Mebane. So I live way out in the woods with the coyotes and the other creatures. And someone had the crazy idea. There's an interstate that goes north of where I live. It's a ways away, but it's how I get to the rest of the world, is I have to get on that exit. These guys from Texas came up and they proposed that they're going to put, believe it or not, the world's biggest gas station at that exit. So it's 120 gas pumps and then all kinds of development around it. And it's going to be a circus. And so a lot of people here are up in arms because the county's wanting to use this as a way to generate some tax revenue. And it's not a very smart way to do it. There are a lot of better ways to do that. But anyway, some enterprising guy who knows how to build a website got on there and he launched an advocacy effort directed at the town council or the county board of commissioners. And I am just in awe of what they've accomplished. They had so many people who wanted to speak at the last board meeting that they had to schedule 2 more board meetings. They've got 150 people who signed up to speak. And all of that has happened during COVID, you know, just through Zoom calls and phone calls and emails. And so I think, you know, there's things that you can do now to start laying a foundation and begin planning. And that's what I would recommend that you do.
I always think of one location that we have in our area is called Morningstar Mission. And Ginny probably knows a little more about Morningstar. But I don't know if that would be one area that we could, the food to health group could work in that group, trying to get to plant-based meals, because they're financially strapped, and families are put in this group home until they can get back on their feet. I'm not all in full detail of who's all there, but
it is families, and also actually if that might be an interesting way to do it, because actually anybody can go in and have a meal, and it is primarily aimed at their residents, you know, which are families, but anybody that is available or over there can actually go in and have a meal. So yeah, that may be a consideration.
Let me ask you a question, and please be honest with me, because there's nothing you could say that would hurt my feelings. Because it doesn't, you know, I love honest feedback. But you know, I've had this idea again that we need to kick off this general campaign effort that focuses on everyone, but really giving some initial attention to these these communities that are struggling, where our healthcare crisis is most severe. And when I was thinking about this summit and the call to action that we might have, you know, I thought that, you know, maybe encouraging our network, our pods and other groups to work on, you know, a strategy that they could use to reach some of these folks in their own community, and then to submit that to us as part of this sort of national contest to fix this problem. Is that something that you as a group, is that something that would be something that would interest you, or is it too big of an ask? I mean, you know, it's like I said, it's a complicated issue. You know, how do we do this? But you know, I'm going to encourage groups to think small. You know, pick like this place that you're talking about. Maybe that's a good way to start. You know, pick something that's smaller and manageable, and build your strategy around that. But does this sound like to you like this is going to be an appealing idea for people to engage in, or not?
I think so.
So in the beginning, yes, it's just that the long run activities have to be sustained. We have a couple of vegan and vegetarian groups here in the Naperville, Aurora area. So Naperville, Aurora, Illinois. And we also have a big fest which happens every 2 years, I believe. It's a veggie fest.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of speakers who come there. And then we have one doctor here, I forget his name. So they do all of these events and they invite a lot of people. It's a 2-day full-fledged event. Maybe aligning with them could help too, to try and understand what have they succeeded at, what have they failed at. And I just don't remember, there were a lot of people who have come here and spoken. It's a good idea to align with them too.
Mm-hmm.
I see people nodding, so I'm pretty sure they are aware of Veggie Fest here.
Oh yeah, it's phenomenal. It
Yes.
is phenomenal, but it hasn't been previously. It has not been primarily focused on whole food, plant-based. It's just been vegan. So the health component has not been where it has centered. And I would like to see more things that are more health centered in the Veggie Fest.
Oh, they are health centric, right? If you look at it,
Well, it's vegan. It is vegan and vegetarian. No, it's vegetarian, I think, primarily, right? Sorry, my kitty she's sitting on my microphone, so hold on.
yeah, but if you look at it, if you want to appeal to the whole mass, going vegan too, right? The basics won't change. So while plant-based is certainly vegan, you just take the dairy or any animal-based product out, it
Right.
becomes vegan.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between the vegan and, focusing on vegan is getting the animals and the dairy out. But people can eat a lot of processed food and it's not going to be healthy. So it's
I agree.
like that that pendulum swing to get it more focused on not just eliminating animals, but also promoting more of the whole foods.
True. I agree.
That was my only point. I'm sorry.
Sure. No, I agree. No, that's okay. Thank you.
Could you give us an example of of several of your $3 meals of what exactly you get in them?
Yeah, so if you go to PlantPureNation.com and you click on the shop button and then go to meal starters, the meal starters sub tab, you'll see all of the meal starters there on that page, but they generally consist of, the spices, whatever is necessary to impart those flavors. They might also include some pasta, dry pasta or rice. They could include lentils,
Dehydrated vegetables.
beans, and then very small dice cut flavoring veggies.
Yeah.
But then what you do is you have to add the produce, the big produce, like we have a mushroom stew, you add the mushrooms to that. If it's an Alfredo, we have an Alfredo dish, you add, peas and carrots. And so you have to add those elements to it. And what's nice is if you want to stretch out the serving, if you want to stretch it out some, you just throw in more veggies, The other thing I should mention is that there's a recipe on the back of each pack. But if you go to plantpurenation.com and you click on the cook tab, we have something called Meal Starter Ideas. You can click on that and you can find other recipes that use these meal packs. So you don't have to make what's on the back of the package. We actually have, I think, over 30 recipes now that can be created through these meal packs. So just go to plantpurenation.com and check it out.
Well, hi, I'm new to this group. I'm only my second time in, but I'm very much interested, Greg, Jenny, if we are gonna launch something like that and go into Morningstar. I mean, that would be amazing. I think education is very much lacking in this. And my gosh, I don't think COVID would be in the place it was if we were whole food, plant-based, So, gosh, sign me up.
Well, that's fantastic, Anne. Yeah, I would talk about that. And then again, I would go back and look at the strategy. I didn't really talk about it here because it's all laid out there on the website, but I'd look at the strategy of the advocacy project, which is inspired by what we did in PlantPure Nation, and then look at that local resolution that we're suggesting that you present to your town or village council, village board, city council, whatever. And that can then lead right into a project like you're thinking about at Morningstar. And even if you don't succeed in the strategy that's laid out in that project, it really doesn't matter, because in the process of doing that, you're going to generate public interest, and you're going to recruit people to your cause. And the reason that I like starting with kind of our Neighbors in Need focus that project is because, there's a part of me, I want to go out there sometimes. I get angry. I see that no one in the media is talking about nutrition and
Right.
COVID.
Right.
No one's talking about, even though well over 95% of the poor folks who've died from this have had pre-existing conditions, mostly the result of poor nutrition.
Mhm.
And even though most of those conditions will begin to reverse quickly when you go on a plant-based diet. So even though nutrition is the most important thing that we should all know about in this pandemic, no one is talking about it.
Mhm.
And even someone like Sanjay Gupta, who wrote a blog because he had met my father and changed the way he eats, he
Mhm.
refuses to say a word about it. It's because CNN, their biggest source of revenue is from drug companies.
Mhm.
And then we tried to launch a petition around this, and it didn't work because Facebook, it started to go viral, and then very quickly Facebook shut it down. So we saw it happen in real time. Facebook killed our petition. So this is, Mark Zuckerberg has put himself in the position of being a censor. So there's a part of me, I want to go yell from the rooftops, just holler. But I don't think that that's the right way for us to launch this movement. I think people are getting sick and tired of all the anger and the noise
Mhm.
and the division and the accusations and demonizing. I think we need to express our love. I know that sounds kind of corny, but we have to show love.
Mhm.
If we can show love, we will draw people to us more effectively than if we get angry and accusatory.
Mhm.
And so this is why I feel in my heart, we really need, if we're going to heal our world, we have to start where the needs are greatest.
Mhm.
So,
question. Um, My question is this, you have these meal starter kits, which are a great idea. You're going into areas that are considered a food desert. Their grocery store might be Dollar General where there is no fresh produce. I think a dire urgent need to get produce into these people's hands as much as these starter kits, because and I see it here where we live in South Carolina now. There are areas where there is not a grocery store. And they
Yep.
have to go to Dollar General and shop there, and they're lucky if they can find an apple.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and we talked about this issue in our film PlantPure Nation. I don't know
Yes.
if you saw that, but it's a very critical problem in many communities, and it could be an inner city community, but it also could be a rural community too. I remember driving back and forth to Louisville to do our film, and I go through the mountains of Eastern Kentucky, and there's
Yes.
just nothing out there. And so this is a widespread problem. So this is part of what makes this such a difficult problem to solve. And
Yeah, so I was just wondering if you had, any ideas on how you were handling that. Because
well,
you have to pack it to start a meal, but you don't have kale or spinach or carrots or onions
yep.
or mushrooms.
So every community is going to be different, and every community in that regard may require kind of its own solution to fix that problem. And we're just going to have to be creative, and we're going to have to be daring to go out and ask for help. I was talking to someone in Arizona who had a dream. She's had a long time dream of wanting to bring this message to the Native American community out there, because the rates of disease are so high. In fact, there was an article here recently that many of the elders who possess the knowledge of their traditions and past, they're dying left and right. It's really very tragic because of COVID. And so she was nervous, could she do this? And she wanted to go meet with the elders of a tribe there in Arizona. And so I really tried to pump her up and, get her motivated to do it. And she did. She took a chance and she drove up there. She had a very successful meeting. In fact, that elder got on the tribe with me, you know, wanting to ask a lot of questions. But one of the issues that they have is what you're suggesting, you know, how do you get the food up there? And so they're involved in some, I need to get some more information on this, but they have some program they're putting together where some of the stores, and I can't remember the name of the city that's next to them, I think it might be Phoenix, are contributing and donating produce, which they're running up there periodically to those folks. So, you know, every community is going to be different, and we're going to have to get creative, and we're going to have to take some risks and go out there and ask for people to get involved and participate and help out. Because one thing's for sure, there's a lot of fruits and vegetables out there. They're just not evenly distributed.
That's true.
Can I just throw in that I just went online and ordered 7 of the meal packets. It was $51, which I think is amazing. They look really good.
Yeah, that's so 7 of those packs should yield about 28 servings if you got the entree.
Or as I eat them, maybe about 14.
Maybe, yeah. And again, you could throw in more vegetables and you can stretch them out even longer. Yeah.
Very.
Another quick question, if I could. Nelson, are you guys doing any sort of Instagram campaigns and maybe getting some local Instagrammers to use your meal starters and creating some creative kind of meals and showing people exactly how they can do it on the cheap and make it taste really good?
Yeah, that's a great idea. We need to do that.
Okay.
So we're not doing that, Peter. You know, being very frank, we have a pretty minimal team. I say minimal team relative to everything that we're trying to do. And part of that is because it hasn't been easy for us to raise a significant amount of money to support all of this, because it's the story around this is more complicated. There are these charitable elements to it. And so when you go to some of the folks who have the big money, they kind of look at you cross-eyed. Even though sometimes they say that they're social impact investors, I always have found that they're first and foremost interested in money and making money in a very traditional way. So at any rate, I'm kind of digressing, but what you pointed out is something that we need to do, and we haven't done because we just don't have the bandwidth.
Right. Well,
so if you have ideas for that, let me know.
Absolutely, I'd love to work with you on that.
Yeah, Peter is a chef. Peter is a chef. So
okay.
Peter, how about order up a couple of those packages and make some nice fancy meals and put them on Instagram with us?
Yeah, sure. And I think Instagram is a really effective way to get the message out from a grassroots perspective and reach folks in many different communities.
Yeah.
And people really, really connect through Instagram. So I've been on it for about 1.5 years and had a lot of success in reaching people in many different communities. So
I think our PBNM account follows you on Instagram too. So, you know, if you're going to post something on there, maybe tag me or something like that to make sure we spot it and share it.
Okay. And Nelson, just throwing that out there, if you need a volunteer to help your movement and what you're doing kind of in the social media space, definitely let me know as part of the PBNM group. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. One of the things that you maybe you and others here in the group could think about, and if you have ideas, let me know, is because there are so many charitable elements to what we're doing, you know, like what I've been sharing with you tonight, working in some of these communities where the need is greater, and there's a couple of other projects on our site that kind of fall into that charitable category. We're going to be able to collaborate with our nonprofit on this overall campaign, and we've been working with our attorneys to draft, you know, a collaboration agreement, because you have to be careful, you know, when you have a company and a nonprofit, that you're not going into any kind of forbidden gray area. So we've been very careful, and we have an agreement. But what I'm hoping is that the folks who are involved in our pod network, supported by our nonprofit, that they can see the social possibilities around all of this and get excited about it. And then, go out and share this, including sharing information about our meal starters, because that's the only strategy that we have for overcoming our capital deficit. I'm not about to go to a venture capital firm right now for funding, because then they'll just squash. They'll want to terminate a lot of what we're doing here, because I said it's all for them. It's all about money. So we need at the grassroots level, we need people to help share this message, share the information I've shared with you here tonight, and get the word out so that people will want to support us. So if you have any ideas for how we can better get the word out at the grassroots level and through our pods and using Instagram or anything else, let me know.
All right, any other questions?
Yes, this is Joan from PBNM.
Yeah.
And I just wondered, I understand what you're saying about not trying to avoid political, but I'm wondering if there's been any efforts to consider how we might if influence or at least educate with the new administration coming in that might be a little more amenable to learning about whole food plant-based. Has there been any efforts or any thought to that?
Yeah, so through our nonprofit, we did launch a letter writing campaign targeting governors in certain states. And it all started with Governor Cuomo in New York. And so we put together a really compelling letter that included, and a science argument from my father, and also engaged the pods, all the pods in the state. So starting in New York, and then we went to Georgia and a few other places. And we haven't, as of yet, even gotten a response to our letter, which I figured that would be the case. We do have connections with the Biden administration. We set up a food climate coalition a while back. And so we've got some major environmental groups who are involved in that. And one of the fellows who's involved in that coalition apparently is a candidate for a senior position at the White House. So he's trying to engineer some kind of possible dialogue, but even he's not all that hopeful, because there's everyone's trying to talk to the administration about this, that, and the other.
Sure.
And it's also doesn't really bode well for us, the selection of Vilsack as our head of the agriculture department. He's the CEO of a company or a consortium that exports dairy products overseas. And so I don't know. I watched my father struggle for decades in the political arena. And it's one reason why I did PlantPure Nation, just to show how difficult that is. I think the politicians will respond when they see lots of people demanding it. So
okay, thanks for the answer.
Yeah.
I did see some type of petition or something to sign for Kamala, give her direction. It was all on trying to promote plant-based.
Right, the Women's Divinity, I think, was the organization, and I don't know what that means, if it's an acronym or whatever, but to encourage Kamala to go vegan for the month of January, to really push her. And it was a very robust campaign. Just, yeah. So hopefully the message got through. We'll see.
Any other questions? I guess we have, we've covered everything. Now we have to kind of soak this stuff in and bring it back to our next meeting, maybe to bring it up and discuss what we're going to be doing. And I think the couple of us shown interest in the, maybe the Morning Star mission and seeing how we can, start there. The thing I see an advantage of that is publicity for our group. If, we get to do something and it shows positive returns, then I think as you see, going to these communities and people in need is a good start because they need it. But secondly, I think it's also a way to show others what we can do.
Right.
Yeah, it's time for us to just love each other as hard as we can.
Yeah.
That's what the world demands. We have to do this. And yeah, so I just really encourage you all to meet as a group and, come up with a plan. Like you said, Craig, soak in everything that I've mentioned and look at that website and look at those meal starters and any ideas that you have that you want to share. I'm always here. I'm available. If you want me to come back to another meeting, I can work that into my schedule. If you have ideas, Peter, for social media at the grassroots level, let me know. But thanks for having me here today.
No, thank you.
Yes, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Nice to hear inspiration and new things happening.
Okay.
Thank you.
So
All right.
I guess for the rest of us, we're just two separate groups here, but
That's all right.
I know that
Hey, Craig, I'll let you continue on, but I'll just go ahead and drop off here. So
yeah, that's fine. Thanks so much for joining us.
Started changing the world in your community there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
I know our next for the food to health meeting, we're going to have Ken and Dee's doing what are you guys making?
I'm going to teach you how to make caramelized onions.
There we go.
And I will probably do a dessert of some sort, but I don't know.
Okay. But I think during that meeting, that's going to be
onions.
Okay. I was going to say that's the last.
Caramelized onions are probably going to be.
Okay. But that's the last Sunday of the this month. We're still going to have it at the 4 o'clock, and then I think it'd be a good time we can discuss some of these other things that we can do besides, we've been doing good at cooking, and when we get together, we get to eat everybody's food, which is always a good thing. But we haven't been able to do that. So I think that at the end of the month will be a good start. And then in February, Judy, you have the PBNM.
Yeah, that's on the 15th. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's Dr. Kim Williams. I forget, I think it's at 10 o'clock in the morning on the 15th. I think that's a Monday. And he's going to be doing a presentation about 45 minutes, including a Q&A. And we're going to have a couple of people who have experienced the benefits of whole food plant-based, what it's done for their health. And then there's going to be a cooking demo at the end. So it'll be about 2 hours. The whole thing will be about 2 hours long. So we encourage you to join us. It's in our meetup. So if you go to the Chicagoland Plant-Based Nutrition Movement meetup, it's in there, or go onto our website. It's on our calendar there as well.
Or Open Tribe.
Or Open, thank you. Yes, it's in our Open Tribe as well, both yours and ours.
Yes. So. All right. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Otherwise, I think I don't know of anything to bring up at this point. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us for the meeting. It was great to have Nelson Campbell on. It was fun having him there, and
Yeah.
appreciate all the input that those of you that added in, and any suggestions you guys have for, obviously Nelson Campbell, he's receptive, or anything that we can do in either of our groups or together.
Yeah.
I think that'd be that'd be a great thing to do. So, I mean, there's obviously Naperville and, we're down in the Plainfield, Joliet area. There's a lot of things, but we need to focus on probably smaller, get started in something, which the two groups, we can focus in two different areas, but use each other resources to help get it off the ground, because I've been wanting to do it, but it's kind of an overwhelming task.
Yeah.
And then plus with COVID on top of it, we have limitations. We don't want to be exposed. So how do you protect yourself and still do all this stuff? So
Yeah, exactly.
and I understand some people don't want to leave the house, and that's understandable at this point.
Yep.
So,
Exactly.
Other than that, Judy, you have anything else to input?
No, that's it. And thank you for organizing this with Nelson too. I mean, that was a brilliant idea on your part. So thank you for doing it.
I can't take full credit because of the pod group. We have a regional person, and she sent me an email. Would you like Nelson to come talk to your group?
Oh yeah.
So that was my undertaking. Was I said yes.
Okay. Yes.
And
good.
then communicating with Nelson then was relatively easy. And
That whole family is amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, they are.
So, all right. Well, good to see you all.
You too.
And if anybody has anything they want to add, send me a note or whatever. Other than that.
All right.
All right.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
We'll see you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.